everybody. I'm Nolan Hoffman. Thanks for joining us right here for East Texas in Focus. Let's get started. Well, tonight we are focusing on the Longview Police Department. Crime statistics continue to drop within the city. Their car accidents are also going down, and opportunities within the department appear to be blooming, which is why we are speaking with Police Chief Anthony Boone tonight. He's a more than 20-year veteran of the department, serving in leadership within the force for around a decade and becoming the top guy just 3 years ago, leading the department to their new state-of-the-art headquarters while exploring new technologies and ideas. And during a recent interview with Chief Boone at Longview's new department headquarters, he told me all about his plans and hopes for the future of policing with the attitude of servitude. Listen to what he had to say.
I graduated from UT Tyler in December of 2000, and I began working here in January of 2001. At the time, I was under 25, and my goals were to potentially maybe be an FBI agent or something like that. And so we went, I applied here my last semester of college and got the job offer and graduated, like I say, a fall graduation. In January, I was working at Longview PD, and just as life kind of happens, ended up working here, liking it here, and just continued to grow and mature into the job and have some other opportunities come along. And, you know, 24 plus years later, I'm still here. So I've really enjoyed being part of Longview PD and working for the city of Longview. It has been a very unique experience. I promoted to assistant chief in 2015, and so I did have that opportunity to watch my predecessor in that role as chief for several years before having the opportunity to become the chief in May of 2022. And in that time, it's really understanding that it's much more than just police work. You know, you get hired in your early 20s to be a police officer, and it's about going out and doing patrol work and answering the calls for service and making traffic contacts and so forth. And then as you develop in your career, you realize there's a business side to anything, even in the municipal world. So there's staffing, there's HR stuff to be had, there's training that needs to occur. There's budgets that you have to operate within, cars you have to buy, gas that needs to be in the cars. So definitely my role has expanded over the almost quarter century at the city of Longview on the task I'm responsible for. And then just, you know, the role as chief has been very unique because in the process of that, we were already in the building, this building that we're in today, and that was still under construction. So we had to finish construction on that and then move into this building. So that was definitely a great hurdle, but definitely a hurdle because nobody that still works here has, even our most tenured employees, because we've been in our previous building for close to 50 years, had never experienced the actually moving a 24/7 operation and still not have services interrupted for our community. I definitely think that the move from across the street to here was one of our largest challenges. It was everything that goes into construction and then getting all the finishing touches onto a building beyond just the brick and mortar, making sure everything technologically works and does what it's supposed to. Then you have to worry about evidence, operations, how you get everything over there. You keep integrity to everything in the process of the move. And so that was quite a bit of logistics went into making that move. And I think for the most part, it's gone over very well. Now we've been in the building for almost 17 months, I believe. And still a few little hiccups here and there, but overall, it is just a great facility to work out of. And it's really nice to have a brick and mortar location that, to me, matches what our officers and what our culture is. Just a progressive agency that's trying to stay on top of technology and providing good policing to our community. I like providing professional policing because it's very simple and we apply it to everything that we do. To me, it is our brand, and it doesn't matter what happens in the rest of the world, but I want our citizens to know that when they call Longview Police Department, they're expecting a professional officer to show up that's going to help them with their situation. You know, I tell every new officer that comes on board, really, new officer, new professional employee, new dispatcher, that it's really about the brand. And this patch is our brand. This badge is our brand. And I want them to protect that and not let it get tarnished. And to me, when you're taking care of the brand and doing the right thing for the right reasons, in the process of that, you're taking care of your community and you're providing them the services that they deserve. Professional policing it goes so much more to me than just answering the calls, but you go to a vehicle burglary call. Maybe for that officer, maybe that officer's worked 20 vehicle burglaries in the last several months. But for that person, that might be the only time that they're ever a victim of a crime their entire life. So it's having a little bit of empathy and making sure that you're walking them through the process, not just collecting the evidence that you need to collect and so forth, but hey, did you lose any credit cards in this? Do you know you may need to get online real quick and get that 800 number? Let's start doing some fraud alerts and stuff like that. Just making sure that you're providing empathy to these people. And I always say the golden rule, treat the others the way you want to be treated, and provide that service of care. And I think that your community really appreciates it when you do that type of service. One thing we also added in 2022 was basically a customer survey. And I know, if we go anywhere to eat or shop, we generally get one of those on the back of our receipts. And to me, the mindset was, if I'm just having a retail experience and they want to know, the company wants to know what my thoughts were, I mean, we're providing policing, public safety services. So that would be, to me, a great source to know from our actual end users, people that are actually using our services, what do they think about us? And so we have, it's a program called Spider Tech, but and we have certain calls that it goes out on, so not every call for service, but basically when if they've called and reported a crime or needed police assistance, when it's all, the call is completed, they actually get a survey back, and we have quite a few that fill those out, and it gives us real-time data from our end users of the type of job that we're doing. And it means so much to us. Not only do we track it as administrators, but we actually even put, there's free space where people can add some additional comments besides just the scoring. And we actually publicize those scores internally. So we have a couple monitors throughout the building that are constantly showing that feedback that our public has given us. And it even has the officer's name. And I mean, the overwhelming majority of that is very positive. And it's great for an officer to see his or her name up there and saying, hey, this is what that says. And after I left, this is what they thought about the service I provided. The actual phrase of providing professional policing is something that I developed after becoming chief. But I truly believe the organization I've grown up in my whole career has always pushed for professionalism. I think that we've always tried to have the best technology. We've always had high standards, and it's really just defining that and reminding everybody of that, reminding our employees of that, our team of that, and reminding our citizens that this is what our expectation is for ourselves, and please have that expectation for us. I am definitely, when it comes to, I guess, researcher, personality type, whatever you want to call it, I like to quantify whatever we're doing. So I do like numbers. And we have 2 people on our staff now that are crime analysts that basically that's what they do. We had 6 beats when I became the chief, and I changed that to 8 beats. And that didn't change our staffing at the time. But what it did was made each geographic area that a patrol officer is responsible for just a little bit smaller. I wanted everybody to truly understand where are my traffic issues in my area of responsibility, and where are my crime issues in my area of responsibility. And to me, making them a little bit smaller gives a little bit more ownership to that. So that's one thing that we did. Another thing, like you mentioned on the 10-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts for us was just a great way to provide overlap in our shifts. We basically, when you run a 24/7 operation, you want something that really divides into 24 hours. That's why you'll find most police departments either run 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts. For our call volume, to me, 12-hour shifts were just too long for us. Our calls for service are about 60,000 a year, not counting all of the contacts and self-initiated activity we have. So, and there's court to go with that and everything else. So, to make it easier, we've stuck with 8 hours, and it divides into 24, so we have three shifts of 8 hours. But this 10-hour overlap allows at our peak times to have officers either start a shift a couple hours ahead of that or stay a couple hours afterwards. So like evening shift, for example, most of the guys get off at 11 p.m. Well, with this, you'll have some guys that work over till 1 in the morning, and that's usually some of our busiest times, like on a Friday night or Saturday night. You're pretty busy from about 8 p.m. till about 1 or 2 in the morning. So It puts more officers out on the streets for us and for the community, so that's the win for the city. The win for them is you're only working 4 days now, and you have a 3-day weekend instead of a 2-day weekend. And that, I think, for just people's mental well-being, it gives them a little bit more time to kind of reset themselves. If you got projects, want to take a little short, quick trip, vacation or whatever else, you can do that with either maybe not having to take another day off or only have to take one other day off, and now you're off 4 days instead of 3 days. So I really think it's a great work-life balance for our employees while providing additional staffing at our peak times for our community. And with that, we have about close to 80 officers in patrol, and about 14 of them are allowed to take this opportunity with the 10-hour shifts right now. And we hope that we're just able to expand that as our staffing continues to improve. Other things that we've done as far as the data world, we created a new division. We didn't add to people that we had all these positions already, but it was just put into different units. And what we did was we pulled all this out and made one, what we call an intelligence division. And so we have our special investigations officers, they're in this. Our narcotics officers are part of this now. We have our crime analysts part of this. And then we also have what we call federal task force officers. So we have task force officers that are with the FBI, the DEA, and ATF. And so they all function in this intel division. And the great thing that we found about that is before we've tried to plug different people in different units in different spots, but sometimes you end up with, on communications, folks are a little siloed and there's not a great amount of sharing going on. But now having a division that kind of stands alone, our communication between our criminal investigations division, our detectives, and our patrol division has just drastically improved. And I do feel and believe that we have some of the best communication occurring right now than what we've ever had at the Longview Police Department.
And that's a good start tonight. When we come back with East Texas in Focus for you, more with Chief Boone and more in depth with our topic. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Tonight we are focusing on the Longview Police Department for you. And before we went to break, we got to know Chief Anthony Boone, hearing about his 20-plus years with the department, as well as his hopes and dreams for its future. Now, during my interview with the chief, we discussed crime statistics and the pride he takes in those dropping numbers. But we also talked about some of his concerns. One of the biggest on his mind right now, fentanyl. Listen to his concerns and how the department is responding to this deadly threat.
Well, one thing I heard from an older, very wise chief one time is never take credit for the good statistics, and that way you won't have to take credit for the bad statistics. All I can do as a police chief and as a police department is try to combat crime the best that we can. We are very fortunate right now to be on a trend where our homicides are reduced. In fact, really our crime overall is reduced. I would like to think it's a lot of the efforts that we're trying to do right now. But again, I'm not going to sit here and take credit for everything that's occurring. But going back to our intel division, going back to our push for traffic enforcement, I think when you put all of this together, that's when I think you start to see some advantages to crime situations going on in the community. We try to be very proactive. We push very much for our officers, our patrol officers between calls for service, to be out, to be seen, to engage in traffic enforcement. Our traffic contacts after COVID were in the low 20,000s, and this past year for 2024, we were close to 40,000 contacts. And the point of this is being out there, being seen. It is proven that when people, same as you or I, if we're driving down I-20 going to Dallas, whether you're going above the speed limit or not, because Nolan, I don't want to ask you to admit to anything, but if you pass a trooper there with his lights going, even if you're going the speed limit, you're probably going to slow down a little bit more. So having police cars out there, having police cars with their overheads on, being seen, that is a crime reducer. That is a traffic saver. Right now, for the first quarter of 2024, we are seeing a 20% reduction in our crashes. That is over 100 crashes that we are down this year compared to last year. That saves our community. That saves our officers time. If they're not out there on an accident blocking or somebody that's injured on a traffic crash, that I have 2 officers out on that call, and they're usually out there for at least an hour. If they're not doing that, they have time to do other things. If our community is not involved in crashes, they're not having to deal with hospitals and doctors and insurance and all that afterwards. So anything that we can do to help reduce that, we see that as a win. Anything that we can do to reduce our crime, we see as a win. And when you put it all together and you have your officers actively engaging and being seen and being out, and you have an intel unit that's telling the officers, hey, here's the areas that probably need a little bit more attention, and then you have other officers, detectives that are working kind of behind the scenes to see where our largest organized crime issues are going on, and they're trying to combat that. You put that all together, and then I think that's some of the things that you can contribute to crime trends going down. Again, I looked at our last 10-year average on homicides. It's probably averaged about 10 a year is our average over the last decade. We have just one for this first quarter. Wish we had none, and hopefully, we don't have any more than that. Statistically speaking, we generally do. It is a downward trend I'm very positive to see. All I can do is just continue to keep focusing on all the areas that we are currently focusing at to make sure, one thing we started in 2022 that we still utilize is pump the brakes. And that's being out there, that's being seen. We still run special details at different times on the loop. It's one spot that sometimes people will gather up and maybe either speed and do things like that. So we just want to be out there, and we want people to know that we're out there. We want folks to think about that before they run that red light and so forth, because that's when you have your T-bone crashes, and that's when people get seriously hurt. And anything that we can do to reduce that, I think, is a win for our community. There's some technology that's helping us as well, but I'll be honest with you. I'm the chief, and I'm I guess the tip of the spear, and maybe the face of the police department. But it is all the people that work here. Right now, we're in the situation to have great leaders in great positions. I've had the opportunity to promote several lieutenants, sergeants over the last couple of years, and man, we've just got some people that are really working well together. We have people that are leading people. Our detectives right now, they amaze me when they go on a major crime, whether it's a robbery or aggravated robbery or homicide. The ability to quickly solve it and develop a suspect, they amaze me at their abilities. Our property crime detectives, they work very well with our business community. They're able to get video really quick. Generally, they make, it's daily that I'm seeing some type of information come across our email from our detectives on, hey, help me identify this person, or we're looking for this person. And it's just a constant effort to find out who's committing these crimes in our city, and then whether it's getting a warrant, arresting them, whatever else. And these people work very hard day in and day out, and I'm very, very impressed with them. I think my biggest concern as chief right now has got to be drugs are always an issue, because drugs basically tie to almost everything else. When we have people that are intoxicated high, that's when they may do some things at their house that they normally wouldn't do. Increases domestics and so forth. Sometimes people will steal to create money to support their habits that they've developed and stuff. But my biggest concern, to not just use the blanket term of drugs, but it's definitely fentanyl right now. We've been very fortunate in East Texas that we were kind of insulated from it for a while, but it is here. It is definitely here. And I just, the concerns of, a kid being at a party and, still taking something that they shouldn't have taken, but now because of it being laced with something, that it takes their lives. And that is definitely one of my biggest concerns. That's why I'm thankful to be partnering with the DEA and ATF and FBI to combat a lot of this right now. And again, we can't be everywhere all the time, but we want to stay after these dealers that are pushing this into our community. We're actually trying, again, kind of like what we're doing on our other crime issues, just attack it from all different levels. The biggest thing is can't be everywhere all the time, so it's education and trying to hope that you can get people to understand you don't know what you're taking. One of the best examples I've heard is from our narcotics supervisor, and I've heard him give demonstrations, and he talks about it's kind of like doing a homemade batch of cookies. Maybe this cookie ends up with so many chocolate chips, and this cookie has so many more chocolate chips. And when this stuff is not pharmaceutical grade, and when people are mixing this stuff, maybe this pill has this much, but this pill has this much more in it. And that is the concern. So we have partnered with our schools. We have school resource officers in the 3 school districts here in Longview right now. We have worked with Pine Tree to try to get education in the schools about fentanyl. So one thing is trying to stop the people that potentially would use some of this stuff from using it to start with. And then as it grows, more of the traditional law enforcement role is having our officers that, and I don't want to go into great detail to mess up any cases, but they work at the street level, and then they try to work up the chain as well to identify people that are bringing harm to our community.
When we return tonight, we'll hear Chief's message to both victims of crime and those who would try to victimize anyone in his city. We'll be right back. Welcome back tonight, and we are focusing on the Longview Police Department. And before we went to break, we got to know Chief Anthony Boone about the state of the department, concerns he has for the city right now, and his hopes moving forward. Now, during my interview with the chief, we also spoke about what he can do for potential victims of crime and those who would perpetrate crime in his city. Listen to his message right now to both sides of the law's concerns.
I think a message for our victims is please don't be silent. If something has happened, call us and let us know about it. We can't take care of problems that we don't know exist. That would be my biggest message to any victim or potential victim out there. As far as a perpetrator out there, my goal is I may not be able to stop all crime, and I understand that, but I want you to think twice before you commit crime in Longview, Texas. We work with our prosecutors. We work with our local DA's office. We have a great DA, and our AUSAs are United States Assistant U.S. Attorneys on our federal side, and we will prosecute cases. They will work to make sure that people have the appropriate sentences, and we're just not going to tolerate it here in our community. So if you want to be a bad seed, you probably need to go down the road and try it somewhere else. But our officers are engaged. Our detectives are engaged. You talked about our clearance rates. We're going to find you. We're going to find out who you are. And then our prosecutors here in Gregg County and at the federal level, they're going to prosecute you.
All right, coming up after the break, we'll wrap up everything we have discussed tonight, as well as our plans for next week's episode of East Texas in Focus. We'll be right back. Well, thanks for sticking with us tonight. In this episode of East Texas in Focus for you, we heard from Longview Police Chief Anthony Boone about his concerns, plans, and message for his city. And this was just the first part of our interview with the chief. And he will join us again for part 2 of this episode as we speak to the chief much more about how the department is addressing homelessness in the city, employment and training opportunities, community outreach programs, and the chief's wish list for the department and the city moving forward. Next week, we'll of course zero in on more issues right here in East Texas. That is all happening this coming Saturday on East Texas in Focus. Have a great night, everyone.